Hello, today is October 17th, I think, 2018. This is the kubeadm office hours. Let's walk through the agenda here. I saw that Lubomir and Fabrizio had a PR about merging the, which PR is this one? There's been several PRs around the phase runner stuff. I think most of them are, the initial ones have been merged. I don't know if I reviewed this one yet.
Yeah, Fabrizio added an example PR that graduates the pre-fire command.
Okay.
Yeah, we need to merge this one so that we have an example, so that we can collect more people to work on the phases.
Let me do that right after this meeting. How's that sound?
Okay, great.
I'm traveling right now, so as you can tell from my background.
Okay. The PR itself is pretty clear, and the next agenda topic is like defining the list of phases, and I wanted Fabrizio is here. Okay. Basically, I wanted us to discuss like here are the phases. We want these to be for 113, and we want this to be the solid list. And based on the list, we can create. We already have a tracking issue. We can create some check marks and assign different people to work on them.
There is, Fabrizio had his original breakdown. I didn't see anything that I objected to. Some of the naming, I think, is quite, questionable just as far as how we want to name the subcommands as we, manage this in the future. We can debate some of that. Most of the other ones are uncontroversial. We do have November 23rd or 24th is the freeze date. So we have 1 month to get all of these things swapped around. So I'd be happy to, if you or Fabrizio wants to walk through the details, I'd be happy to banter about them.
Do you think that it's a good idea to do this in the meeting today?
We can hold on and see if there's other topics that folks want to discuss, but this is part of the GA push. So I think this is totally legit to talk about in this meeting.
Okay, I can share my screen.
Well, there's one thing that I don't know about the packaging problem and how much we are going to manage packaging for this release. Or if I need to talk with DIMS to figure out what the state is of pushing packaging into a better home and location. I think we will probably still have the release repository for this cycle because it's a compressed cycle. So unless there's any change there, unless I hear anything or anyone else does, I think we're still in the status quo of managing the packages.
Yeah, I think that's why. I think the focus right now is to move over to CNCF for repos rather than make major architectural changes.
So I don't think they're going to break for 113. No. If anything, prep for 114, get everything in place.
I think that's
because.
Yeah. On the packaging side of things, especially the RPM packaging side of things, I kind of hoped to have a look at that, but my time is really limited over the next 3 weeks because I'm traveling and then on vacation. So it'll only be then where I can really sort of sit down and start having a look and getting a feel for what needs to be done there.
Okay, I fully expect in the future for KK to be the canonical packaging, to actually store it in the Kubernetes repository and build from there. That's the goal and the hope. I do have some issues currently with how we sort of auto-generate the specs, but I should write some of that stuff down so by the time you're ready to work on it and other folks are ready to work on it, we can just unblock everybody.
The most egregious stuff that I really hated in the KK RPM specs have already gone and fixed because I fixed them.
Yeah, but there's, a long time ago, if you look at the release repository, there's this very large complete refactor of the spec file that I did, and it died on a vine because there was no one there, and that was like a year and a half ago. Yeah, but it's a major overhaul because the way we do packaging is not the way you typically do packaging. So as a former Red Hatter, there's rules, very strict guidelines of how you do things. and to follow those rules actually make sure that everybody else in the playground can play happily.
Yeah, my dream would be to sit down and sort of refactor it from both sides and see if I can get something that is sort of SUSE compatible, which will also be Red Hat compatible because we're pretty aligned with that, and make sense for KK and yeah, generally. So lots of sub packages and all in one place and all that kind of stuff.
Why not just like force the function and maybe after the freeze, which is in November, maybe schedule a time to sit down and talk together. Whoever's interested on this call, we can just have like a little separate breakout session. I know that I just want to be done with this problem because it's not a packaging problem per se, as much as it is a how do we release artifacts from Kubernetes.
I've started a doc, haven't got very far with it. I'll throw a link. Yeah, I would definitely appreciate Richard's input as a SUSE project.
Liz, yeah, given some of the work that you're working on, I may loop you into some of DIM's efforts for the broader K8's infra work, just so we have eyes on for what's going on. Great. All right, Lubomir.
Also bear in mind that we're not only shipping RPMs, we're shipping Debian images too. So
yes.
And they're like deviating at the moment. So
I also talked with some canonical folks about trying to make it, you know, I lack a word, canonical like packages. So, hey, dad jokes. Anyways, so they are interested. I need to loop them into the effort to probably align things for 114. All right, Lubomir, the table's yours. Fabrizio, you want to talk about the final shuffle and naming?
All right, I'm going to share my screen quickly. Can you see this?
Yep.
All right, so I opened a Google Doc for the phases. Before that, Fabrizio created, actually he posted an old list about the phases, and I see some problems, minor problems here, like in terms of the order, but not insignificant. So I corrected the issues, and I posted them here in this Google Doc. Now, the brief white is clear. Next to that, we do kubelet stop. The question here is, do we want to expose this as a phase to begin with, because it's part of the kubelet phase and it's before the writing of the config, for instance. Fabrizio?
The only problem that I see here is related to the discussion that is going on about changing how kubelet is deployed, or how kubelet configuration is deployed.
I don't think that would affect that. Well, I guess that could affect some ordering. You're still going to do those same operations, but when you do a write, when you would either do a write config or write env file, that would add extra steps. So part of that conversation that's going on with ordering could be done within those separate phases. I don't think you would add a new phase or change anything else.
Okay, so in my opinion, is not it does not give really much value to break down stop of write config. So in my opinion, this is only a phase which is kubelet, initialize kubelet, something similar.
So we already have this as a separate phase, the write environment file. I didn't check. We possibly have this as well as a separate one.
So I'm okay with like still having, if you have the ability to have the hidden, because I know you added the
yes,
conversation
it
about
is there.
phases. So if they're hidden phases, I'm totally okay with it. And for right now, you could just say kubelet, init kubelet.
And should we remove the the already existing phase, like it's.
I don't think we need to remove them if they're hidden. So I think the nice aspect of having hidden, and now that we have the clarity, is that we can just leave them there for the time being and still have the ability to potentially execute them if we need to, but they're not exposed to the user.
Okay, I guess we have to hide this one in that case because it's currently exposed in the alpha. Okay, so this is going into the same phase. The subphases are basically hidden for now.
Yep, and we could just call it kubelet, init kubelet.
Okay, the certs are clear. All the generation is under here.
Yep.
Kubeconfig is also clear, I guess. And we have something here which is user. So it's about generating the kubeconfig for another user. It's more of a utility. It's not really a phase. But I guess the point here is, again, should we hide these or should we expose them?
That is generally usable, but I don't know how many people would use it in the separate components. I think what we could possibly do or have a policy for is, it seems to be a repeating pattern of, we could hide the sub phases for the individual subcommands and expose them if needed. Over time, they'll still be there, and users still should have as long as the users have the ability to execute hidden subcommands, that would be fine, right? That way we could still have an exit strategy for those who really want to. And if we get feedback from those folks that they really want to have that fine-grained control, we can directly expose that.
Okay, it makes sense. So I guess we should expose like the root, the parent phases at least.
Yes.
Okay. So next we have audit policy. Now this is feature gated. I can show it in the source code if anyone wants. It basically considers the audit policy rules.
Sorry, Lubomirk. Could you repeat what is the decision about the user phase, the kubeconfig user phase?
So we don't have a decision about it. In my opinion, it's more of a utility. It's not really a phase, and we don't.
Yes, it is. It is a utility, and we can leave this utility under kubeadmin alpha, or we can find a new home. My proposal is to leave it under kubeadmin alpha.
So that's another question. Should we in general keep alpha, or should we remove it?
I like the idea of keeping alpha. If anything, we could even push the pivot underneath alpha, right? The self-hosting.
Yes.
We could push the things that we generally don't want to support still underneath alpha, and that makes perfect sense to me.
Yes, basically under alpha we remain everything except phases.
Yes, we should remove phases from alpha, but we keep alpha for other stuff if we want to.
Yes,
I like that. So
Okay.
I want to pause here for a second. I want other people to have their opinion. I think it sounds good, but there's a lot more than me, Fabrizio, and Lumir on the call. Liz?
Sorry, I only speak Basil right now.
Ruben, I know you have lots of opinions about command line utilities and ordering.
I sure do, but like I prefer to I'm just trying to say that basically I would like to do some like A/B testing, like if we can. I know the time is of the essence, but like I don't know if something else would be of more benefit if we can just try 2 different versions of what we want to do and then like decide, oh yeah, that's pretty elegant, or no, that's or horrible, whatever. I just
Well, I think right now we're just getting a work breakdown of what we kind of think makes sense. And then I'm sure we're going to iterate pretty fast to get the rest of the pieces in place.
Yeah, also the PRs. When we start setting the PRs, we can get like feedback in there.
All right.
Okay. Yeah. So audit policy, that's feature gated currently. We don't have it. Do we need to expose this as a phase? That's the question. Here is the source code directly. You know what this is doing? Basically,
So
yeah.
this was kind of added in to do enabling. That could actually probably be, I don't know who uses it. You do want the ability to set some of those things up on the beginning. I would leave it underneath alpha as a potential option right now. The push for dynamic webhooks for auditing is still ongoing, and that's the ideal scenario where basically you still need a knob that you turn on for the API server, and you want to have that knob exposed. So you pass it in as part of your initialization that says, yes, I want dynamic webhook enabling for audit enabled. And then an administrator can then do an API call directly to the API server to say, here's my webhook, and here's the authentication and everything else I need to do. I do that, and now auditing is hooked up to basically have a proxy.
Yeah, I guess the question here is, look, how do we deal with a feature gated phase, and should we? How do we keep the order? Because I guess the order is important here as well.
I don't know. That's a good question. It cascades through other things.
I don't see. I think that we can have a phase in this position which is executed conditionally.
I think it's fine as a feature gate. The more I think about it, it's fine the way it is right now. It doesn't belong as a separate thing because it'll be an option that gets fed through init into the
but this kind of breaks the logic in Fabrizio's code, because what we should do is we should add it as a phase and then feature gate the run command inside the phase. Because the idea after merging after graduating all the phases, we are going to possibly completely remove everything from running it. Fabrizio can confirm.
Yes, but so I don't catch the point. So I'm the piece of code that handles audit policy will become a phase, and this phase will be executed only if the feature gate is enabled. Otherwise, it will be skipped.
Yeah, that seems fine.
It is already in the phase runner the capability to run phase only under certain condition.
Yes, but we have to add it as a phase.
Yes.
I don't think it should be an explicit phase. I think it would be like hidden, because it's not something that it doesn't make any sense to execute it independently, right? It would be part of, the feature gated items are basically part of general initialization. And they're not, they roll up into arguments that get passed into the API server.
Okay, so this is a subphase of the API server.
Yes.
Of the API server manifest.
I think we should add it as a phase. Fabrizio, can you confirm if the parent phases can be hidden as well?
Yes, but if we are considering these as a part of writing the API server manifest, let's just put this into the same phase that writes the API server manifest.
Yes.
So basically here.
It will be part of the, if you go back to the phases document,
Yes.
and there is control plane API server, including audit policy.
Ah, okay. So it's going to be a subphase of the control plane.
No, or a subphase, or just a piece of code.
Yes, I totally agree with Fabrizio here.
Yeah, and so this is the code that in here we are writing the API server manifest. Okay, I'm gonna add it, add a note here. So anything about the control plane itself, apart from this, I don't think we have anything specific here. We have the API server control manager scheduler, and these should be exposed probably as non-hidden phases.
I agree. I think you were going to want to do that independently, especially if people are trying to do a piecemeal type of upgrade eventually, or if they want to just be able to take a look at the manifest piecemeal.
Yeah, that's a very common scenario that people do this. They modify manifests. Okay, etcd. Anything about etcd? So this is the local case basically. We just write the manifest file, and this is a case where we have a phase that doesn't have any subphases. So this is okay.
So with some of the certs, Jason, I don't know if Chuck is on too. Do we want, for etcd, do we want to have is the certificate generation underneath certs for the etcd aspect? Because we just said ... all the certs here. Or do you want to have, kubeadm init etcd certs or some other thing like that?
So the certificate generation happens all in this phase. That's the search phase. So for etcd, I think we are just writing the manifest pretty much.
I'm just thinking of the UX experience. I guess that's fine. I did it again. I'm just thinking about the user experience.
A possible change will be to generate certs for etcd only we are using a local etcd.
Yes.
So basically, in certs, we generate all the certs except etcd, and below etcd we are generating etcd certs and etcd manifest.
But why aren't we doing this for the control plane components then? Everything else happens in certs.
It is a good question. We before it was in this way. Now we are rearranging. We are just thinking if it makes sense to make certs belong to the component where they are used. For etcd, this is clear. For other component, it is not so clear.
So Liz, Jason, please speak. What do you think?
I can see some benefits to moving the individual cert generation closer to the phase where those certs are consumed, if only because then, it kind of makes it easier to gate those on the config in a single place versus, having to gate in two different places. Like if we do all the certs in one lump and then having to go ahead and kind of gate all of the individual certs based on local etcd versus external etcd, we're kind of kludging that logic in two different places. But at the same time, it is kind of nice to have just kind of like one certs command that can output all of the certs if you're going to use them somewhere else too. So I don't know, there are pluses and minuses to both, I think.
It sort of feels like we might be outgrowing the purely linear model of setting all of this stuff up. Like if ordering things is the only tool we have for talking about dependencies, it's like we're running up against the limits of what we can express using only that.
That was so abstract, Liz. I can't internalize what you just said.
It seems like right now we're using a list for all of the phases, and I think we might actually be using a list to represent a DAG.
Oh, it's a tree. It's a tree.
If we move certs under, for instance, we have control plane API server. If we move the cert generation optional under the API server, like we have to add another subphase of the subphase. One of them should be the writing of the manifest file, and the other one should be the cert generation for the API server. So this one should have a couple of subphases technically.
There might be the ability, now that we're thinking about it, in the way Fabrizio set up the internal data structure, we might just be able to link leaves of the tree, right? There's no reason like you can't add a subcommand to two separate other subcommands. We did this in Sonobui.
Yes, we can create alias.
So that way it's exposed in two ways. If a user wants to generate all the certs, they could just do certs. Or if they wanted to walk the component, they could do it via component. I don't, and it's just going to execute the same code, but it just links to two different locations. It's linked up through the data structure, the phase runner, just as another link, right?
And to keep track, to don't execute things two times. Yes, I got your point. I think that for the first iteration, we can go on with this layout, and then in a second iteration add this kind of double access for the same command.
Why don't we actually? I like that idea. Why don't we continue with the existing certs? And people can access it that way, and we can open an issue and get user feedback about whether or not it makes more sense to do it via component. I know that if I'm just setting up an individual component, I would almost like all of the aspects of that component and subcommands needed for me to configure that component underneath that subcommand, right? So everything relating to etcd should be underneath etcd. Everything related to the API server should be just under the API server. And if we add that linking capability, there's nothing to say that we can't have our cake and eat it too.
Yes, this makes perfect sense. I guess we can keep it like that for now and consider the aliases later down the road.
Yeah, I think that can easily be added. You can always add things, you can't easily remove them. So as long as we keep certs, we should be okay.
Yeah. Okay, so the next one is the pod config. This supports the init configuration, I think.
I don't have any comments there. It's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, we should keep it like a parent command without parent phase.
Yep.
Mark Mas.
I don't have a issue there. We might want to call it control plane, mark control plane. Because we changed the vernacular everywhere else, right?
Does not exist anymore. kubelet config map is uploaded together with the upload config. I'm not sure, but I have to check it. Otherwise, we can make this happen.
Well, here it is. It's kubelet phase create config map.
Okay, I have to check this. So,
Well, I think we are still doing this anyway.
You do.
no,
It's the version config map for the kubelets.
Yes.
so we have two different ways to upload the component config. One for the kubelet, one for the kube proxy. Okay, this is not ideal.
Yeah, there's also this breakage of the kubelet subphases. You see, we decided that this should be like a single phase, but we have these subphases being called.
But
So,
I don't call it. Basically, we are doing two actions on kubelet. One before starting control plane, and one after the control plane is started. So the first is initialize kubelet, and this one initialize the kubelet config map. So they are two different things. Is a problem of giving a right name.
do you think that this should be under the kubelet phase namespace?
No. It's a total. The way the ordering works, it's almost part of. It should almost be part of upload config.
I agree.
It should be like upload config.
Component config.
Yeah, I like that. Upload component config. Kubelet component config. Oh my gosh, you're hurting my brain, Lubomir. Upload config, kubelet upload component config. It's just called upload config, kubelet component config.
So, yeah, how should I name it? Kubelet component config?
You could call it upload config. Upload config kubelet probably is sufficient.
Yeah, okay.
And then upload config would be ... for like proxy. As the other work that Lucas had spent all that time on in between matures and we get other folks working on it, ideally we get the other components in place.
Yeah, I think Lucas is going to be back in the beginning of December, hopefully.
Well, I also want him to go to school.
Yeah, university. Yep.
Yep.
Okay, so mark control plane is pretty clear. So patch node.
That's kind of weird.
This is part of storing the config.
I know. I'd almost want it hidden. I don't think people should be explicitly doing that because ideally, that data is stored directly into the node itself and not as an annotation on the node. Right? We even talked about this. This should be part of the node status. And I believe M. Taufen had mentioned that as well. So I think having that should be hidden, right? It's still there. We still execute it right now, but I don't think we should be exposing that to the user.
Well, we are currently, I think we are already exposing it in alpha. I guess we should remove it.
Yeah, we do a lot of stuff in alpha we probably shouldn't be doing.
So there's a question here. Should we like combine mark master and annotate CRI socket?
No, they're distinct in my mind. Annotate CRI is a hack. It's a hack because of the way the current object exists. We only do it there because we have to, and that's only for upgrades.
Okay, so we basically have to hide this phase completely because we don't have anything else under patch node.
Ideally, it should be the kubelet that write this annotation.
Exactly. Or it doesn't even, it shouldn't even be an annotation. It should be part of the node status, right?
Yes.
So this one is gated as well, the dynamic kubelet config.
That's a weird one. That should be part of the join, right?
No, it applies also to the master node. But the problem is that now we know that this is buggy.
I'd hide it. Just hide it right now. We can find a home for it, or leave it underneath alpha, because we're not going to default to that thing.
Actually, I think that this is a good idea to solve also the problem on the nodes. Because the problem of this phase is that you need to run it with a user that have cluster admin powers. And if we change this phase, letting the user choose where to apply the, I have to think about this. Maybe that we can solve the problem on dynamic kubelet as well.
We can punt on that. Yeah, we can table some of these. We don't have to answer all of them. I would definitely hide it for now, or leave it in alpha phases.
Yeah, I agree to hide it.
Okay. Bootstrap token is pretty self-sufficient or self-contained. I don't think we'd change anything there.
So the original phase is bootstrap token. It was proposed token. I renamed it here to be update or create token because that's the name of the function. Yeah, here it is.
It sounds good. I like it. I should say I don't hate it. The Liz. Can you go back to the command?
What is the what's the difference for the user if you update one or create one?
Well,
time window. I think it's just time window. Isn't that right? I'm pretty sure it is.
Yes.
So you either create.
I mean, every time you call that command, you're creating a new token, right? Regardless of whether one exists already, what are you actually doing when you update it?
Now I need to look at the code because I forgot.
I think.
Basically,
I think it should just be create, personally, because it's.
I'm looking at this Kubernetes CSI source code, but here is the description. Attempts to update a token with the given ID or create it if it does not already exist. So we are passing an ID.
Yeah, I think just calling it create it gives the user all of the information that they need.
Would anyone be
update or create makes sense inside the code base to me, but
yeah, I don't think any user would ever be calling the command line option to update a given token. Would they?
If you look at that file that you were just on, Lubomir, it's gone away. Yeah, notice create new tokens is just an alias for update or create. So that to me says that they're basically equivalent.
Yeah, so we should probably call it create.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think we might. It'd be good if we had some like general guidance around whether these commands are idempotent or not. Like it would be good if, all of them had side effects or all of them noticed if they'd been run twice or something like that. Just to make it more accessible and to understand.
We also have a to-do from Matt here. That it should be moved to client Go.
We have a separate repo now to move this thing to. I don't know if people are keeping track of all of the to-do items. I think it's not that important right now, I would say. But there is a separate location now that has been created for Bootstrap tokens where we can land this utility function. There is a tracking issue, I believe. We should probably add this to the list of other things that we need to do. We need to rip out Bootstrap tokens out of the API, and we also need to shuffle around utility functions.
Yeah, I saw the repo. Okay, so we are naming it create token for now, and the rest are
just call it Bootstrap token create, because you don't need like the token.
Yeah.
Yeah, what does allow do? That doesn't.
Well,
there are three allows that create RBAC rules. One is for allow token to post certificate request.
Yeah, I think this one should be. It should have RBAC in the name somewhere. So
I agree.
What's happening?
Instead of allow RBAC. What is the right pronunciation?
I call it RBAC, whatever.
Huh.
Okay, I'm adding RBAC at the end, I guess. Like so?
No, just like RBAC CSR.
Okay.
Bootstrap token.
I think I would get rid of allow post.
Oh yeah, I would get rid of allow post too. You could probably. There's two parts of RBAC, creating or updating RBAC rules for rotating certificate. I would probably lump them together. I don't know anyone that would use this. I wouldn't even hide it. I mean, like, what user is going to care about this? It should be done as a hidden portion. If you go back to your main command.
Like a private operation, I think.
Yeah, it'd be Bootstrap. I mean, this would be totally hidden to the opaque to the user. They should not. When they do a create, it's all hidden, right?
I think I agree with that. This should be as atomic as possible.
Users should not know the details of like you're setting all these RBAC rules and changing anything. If anything, they would just be hidden subcommands. So if you go back to your document, take everything below create, tab it over, and just say hidden.
Okay. I think this makes sense. I haven't seen anyone use this in user reports and stuff like that.
So I propose to even collapse Bootstrap token and create. Just Bootstrap token and then all the hidden phases.
Sure.
So your idea is to basically call it create Bootstrap token and leave the other things like hidden completely in a separate.
Because it'd be underneath a init. So it'd be a kubeadm init Bootstrap token. Boom. That's the only thing that exists.
Okay. So without create, and these we should probably, I don't know how to place them here. It's getting kind of confusing, but I should shift them to the left, I guess now.
Yep. And then add the create one back, and then it's all hidden.
Create. So create isn't part of this one.
It will be, but it'll be hidden, right? No. Tab them in.
And create like this hidden.
Yeah, and everything below that is hidden too. So they're all tabbed in too.
But they are still a part of Bootstrap token.
Yes, at least temporarily. They might get refactored over time.
Okay. We basically hit all the sub phases here. Because we have to also readjust the whole directory structure in the end. Okay. So cluster info, the next one. We are almost near the end. Cluster info. Yeah, so this is the cluster info phase. Create a Bootstrap config map if it doesn't exist.
Yes, this is for discovery.
Sorry?
This is for discovery.
Yeah. So now the question is, should we keep them like the separate subphases?
Nope. I think it's the same thing. kubeadm can init cluster info. I don't think anyone's gonna. They would be hidden again.
We can hide them.
This is part of the Bootstrap token story.
So it's part of the previous phase?
If I got it right from the discussion, we are saying that basically all the details of Bootstrap token, including reback and config maps, are not useful for the user. So why don't have only a unique phase? That's it. And a unique phase that does 5 actions. It's just but I don't see either the utility of having hidden phases. It's just a piece of code that does 5 actions.
Sure, I totally agree. So like, if you want to say collapse instead of hidden, I think that's fine too.
So okay, I'm going to I don't know. Should I remove like cluster info now, and collapse them like that one, and make them hidden as well?
Yes, remove hidden and just write collapse near Bootstrap token.
Yep.
I should write. Okay. So I remove hidden for all the items, and I write collapse next to Bootstrap token.
Yes,
sure.
Thank you.
Okay. And okay, and now we have the add-ons. We should, we should probably keep these exposed at subphases still.
Yes, for right now. Eventually, we do need to. Can you put a to-do next to add-ons and say like look into bundles?
Yeah. About bundles. Who should we contact about documentation and examples?
Well, it's way too nascent. I don't think it'll be in for 1.13 timeframe. I think we need to revisit this, like open an issue, revisit it in like the 1.14 plus timeframe, but talk with Robert Bailey.
So we saw a presentation from someone from Google, but
they work with Robert Bailey's team. So like Robert Bailey is kind of like the staff lead at Google that manages some of these other cluster lifecycle related things.
Yeah, because we cannot evaluate it until we see like examples and stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think just open a tracking issue for the long term and set the milestone to 1.14 so that when we get to 1.14, we'll reinvestigate to see what the maturity is. But ideally, in the long term, I'd like to get us out of the management of the add-ons. Last cycle, at the end of the cycle, the add-ons and the manifest management caused a lot of consternation.
Yes, a lot of people need them, need to manage them. Okay, and the final item I added was the print join command. So it's a question if this should be a phase.
Yeah, it's hidden at the end. I don't think it would be a separate phase.
I agree.
It's just it's at the end of a init, right? I would just be it's not a separate phase at all.
But
Okay.
with the idea of Fabrizio's runner code, we are going to eventually completely remove everything from this function, and I think that we should add it as a hidden phase.
No, it is not necessary. You can add to the method above.
To the function above.
Yeah.
It should be new init data.
No, where recreate the command.
So it should be here.
Line 150. After, yes, it should replace the call to run init. It should be put there.
So we should move it after. Basically, you should put it here.
Yes. Sorry. There are only 5 minutes left. I have a few quick questions about config, because last week we saw some new requests. And if you can switch to the meeting minutes.
Should I stop sharing?
No, please go to the meeting minutes. So.
Okay.
Thank you. So let's do first the quick one. There was a discussion, a request to add a timeout to the config. It's the second line. I think that it is not difficult, but we should agree, just to set expectation, that we are going to implement only few timeouts or one timeout.
One timeout seems sufficient. We've had a number of requests over time from different parties for different use cases, and it's always been the API server.
Okay, so they wait when the thing starts.
Yes.
Okay. Similar, there is a request to being able to set in your pre-flight checks in the config.
I saw this one.
This is going to end up with the problem we have with flags overriding the config. We're going to have to deal with that as well.
I'm not sold on that one. I think it kind of conflates the config. And because they're executing via CLI, they can override directly on the CLI. They don't need to pass it through the config. It seems weird.
Okay, old.
Yeah.
Then I saw that the request that add to kubeproxy a flag for changing configuration not base emerged. I saw one of it.
So is this the kubeproxy problem? Because we're working on the fix for the kubeproxy hostname override problem. There's already a PR in flight for this.
Yes, the PR merged, but my question is how we should set this flag using the kubeadmin.
You just pass in the regular args for the proxy for hostname override.
Okay.
The exact same way we pass in other args to the other components. I don't think it should be specialized. If I'm reading this right, do you have the exact issue with that one?
So I searched, but I didn't found. But the idea is to have proxy add-on. Have args for kubeproxy add-on.
Well, that's
I would think given the fact that we have the phases explicitly specified and a person could break down what they want to do, we can always just say don't deploy proxy and you can do proxy on your own.
or we can add an argument to the kubeproxy phase if people really want that.
No, I think that the problem is a little bit different. This flag should be set on node basis.
Yeah, that sounds like hostname override. And that should be fixed as part of the default. It's an arg that you pass in. I think this is a fixed problem now, or if this is the issue that we had in the past, and we have those weird workarounds for with the init container, then
I'm not sure. Maybe that we should have open an issue and discuss it, because now we are deploying kubeproxy as a daemon set, and
yes.
So that means that it is not easy to change attribute on node basis.
No, that's fixed. So that should be fixed. The or it should be. I have to double check to see if it's all done now. But there are issues. There are like 3 different issues already open on this. We should just link all of them and just double check that the current work that Loka has pushed actually fixes this problem. I have not had a chance to verify that yet.
Okay, then I leave this question open, and I will open an issue maybe that we have to decide if we need to allow to specify an IP address for the local stake at the TCD.
Yeah, we can also discuss it in the next meeting, I guess.
Yep. I think we can probably hijack. I know we have a SIG cluster lifecycle meeting on next week, Tuesday. If we don't finish or address some of these issues by that time, we can discuss them then too, because I think both of those issues are broader in implication.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
This was great. Thanks for walking us through this, Lubomir. Greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.